I'm not a fan of licorice. Twizzlers, stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. Hey, I do know the number one candy for Halloween. What was that? Reese's peanut butter cups. Oh, that is number one. I Googled it last year, as a matter of fact. And Milky Way is a close second. But as far as the worst, I don't know. There's nothing worse than getting a toothbrush, right? No, nothing worse. But toothbrushes are important, children. Brush your teeth after you eat all that candy. Well, well, the children's dentist here in Noon, and we're quite familiar with. We take our grandkids there, and they posted a video of ghosts getting their teeth worked on. It was adorable. Did you see that? Yeah, they're great there. They're really good. All of our kids, I can't say they enjoy their visits to the dentist, but they are not angry to go. So they do a great job over there. But yeah, they posted a really cute video with ghosts in the dentist office. I think that's pretty creative, for the kids. So we're on a little break. We're on a little break with WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan. If you're watching live on my YouTube channel, you can switch over to theirs too, or go back and forth. Listen on the radio. Love to listen to the radio. Yeah, please come. Well, that time that I came into the studio and went live, I had a lot of really positive feedback, and people said they really enjoyed that one. Good. They thought it was cool to see me in the studio, and the picture you've got in the studio came out real nice behind my head. And this morning I've got some ghosts behind me because, that's what time of year it is. Yeah, I think we'll come in and do and work on some advertising. We've been talking about getting in there and doing a little advertising for the tour company. So we'll get a script written up and come in and do that and let more people know about everything that we offer and how we can help you customize your trip to Georgia, because there's a lot to do in Georgia, and sometimes you have to time it out correctly to maximize your time usage. There you go. So it's always good to have an inside track whenever you travel, of course, to someone who really knows the ins and outs, and we hope that we're that for some people. So exactly right. Been getting out the Halloween decorations. Sometimes it's fun, if you buy something at the end of the year that it's on sale and you just pack it up till the next year, and then you get it out and you're like, oh, I got something new and I got it for 90% off. So that's always fun. But sometimes if you see something new and cool, you better get it when you can because they don't usually restock. So that's another tricky part about Halloween shopping. But boy, do we have boxes and boxes of stuff. Oh, I bet. But we've been searching for them because we're sort of still in transition, but we're getting settled. Yep, we're getting settled. getting our getting our office. We just need a little more heat in the old office. So we've got a heater we're putting together today with some assembly required. What does that mean? It means a lot of assembly. Don't believe some assembly required. There's always a lot of assembly. But I've got a daughter-in-law who's like a whiz at putting things together. She should really get a job. She should have her own little job where you can hire her at Christmas to put together all the kids' toys. She's the queen of putting things together. I look at the directions and it's like a crazy puzzle that I don't even want to try. But yeah, we're fixing to go live. We're on just a little short break. No worries. What's that? Oh, sh- I love dark chocolate. Dark chocolate's good for you, but it's got to be 90% cacao. Lula. Go Lula. Lula is a very small little town, Lula and Belton, and they were very close together along the rail line that ran out of what was then Terminus, and it's now Atlanta. And it's this little railroad town, but its history was a little bawdy. It had a lot of, well, we've talked about that before. In the early 1900s, every gentleman had a sidearm. We've talked about that in relation to the murder in Coweta County story, and every man held a sidearm. You couldn't wait for the sheriff to necessarily show up to resolve an issue. So a lot of times you took care of things yourself, good, bad, and indifferent with that. But yeah, Lula's a little railroad town with a very fascinating past. A lot of really cool stories that we're going to share up there. And it sits along the Eastern Continental Divide. And the Eastern Continental Divide is very important in Georgia because the Indians used it as a natural trail. The natives were here for thousands of years and they knew that there was this ridge line in Georgia. And on the eastern side of the ridge line, when it rains and any water that is springing up from that part, it goes to the Atlantic Ocean. And on the western side, it flows to the Gulf of Mexico. So you can literally stand in Lula and you have the headwaters on one side that lead to the Oconee River, and on the other side, they lead to the Chattahoochee. And these two rivers flow in opposite directions, but the headwaters are like 10 steps away from each other. So on part of the tour, we stand in an alley and you can see one of the headwaters bubbling up from someone's backyard. So it's kind of crazy. Yeah, people don't realize, that I hate everything that happened in North Carolina. My nephew's in Brevard and he was okay. But people need to realize that the earth is still always changing and it's going to correct itself. It's going to change itself. And the earth is just going to have natural events every 100 years or so that change the way the earth looks. And that's just unfortunately part of, natural living with Mother Nature. But yeah, but Lula's a great town, and there's a really cool little mercantile and vintage shop that hosts us. And we start out from the mercantile, and the mercantile has some cool items that people can look at. And everyone's, oh, I didn't have my meters. I got some new meters, Ryan, and we're going to go up there looking for some ghostly energy with these new meters we're going to share with our guests. And of course, we always tell people In the olden days of ghost touring, we had box cameras. We didn't have cell phones. We had a box camera, and if you were really cool, you had a voice recorder, which I did have. But now you got a cell phone. You've got a video camera, a still shot camera. You got a voice recorder. You got everything you need right in a cell phone to do any good ghost hunting. And you can even get an app. You can add an app now. And some of these apps will give you words. Some of them will be like a radar. I like the radar, gives you like a radar bleep, which is kind of cool. So anybody who comes and joins us for any of these cool activities over the next few weekends, feel free to upload Ghost Radar or some other cool app, and we'll be out there hunting for all kinds of things. And in the mercantile, folks are welcome to linger with their apps and their ghost hunting devices because the antique store is full of old stuff. And old stuff carries, we believe, residual energy. For
Wow.
instance, if you inherit a watch or another item from a loved one, a lot of people say, I got my grandfather's watch, or I have his pipes on display, something like this. Those little artifacts, those items were so cherished that you have put into them energy from yourself. If you love something so much, you pass on energy to it. And these items in the store, someone loved these certain items, watches, pendants, jewelry, even clothing, and like military uniforms. There's got to be some kind of energy in a military uniform. So you can go in the store and kind of walk around and see if you can pick up a little evidence from just some of the artifacts in the store, even.
Right. Wow. And I mean, they, you know, like,
We did, and we were kind of scared ourselves. We do that a lot. We scare ourselves. Um, it's just one of those things. But if it's dark and you've got some apps going, you can really scare yourself. But this shop, we also believe the owners live upstairs full time, and they believe they have a vortex in their upstairs. So you kind of want to avoid a vortex. Just saying. Stay away from the vortex. But they believe they've got something going on upstairs indeed. So it's a really cool little shop. Even if you're not into the paranormal side of things, we are sort of a hybrid. We've always done hybrid tours where we mix real history with a bit of the paranormal. So you can get both. If you want to go down the paranormal road, we'll take that road with you 100%. But if you're more into the
yeah,
history, just listen to the history, and because any good ghost tour is just telling you a great story based on true history.
right. Man, look, Mississippi River reminds me of the Alan Deck.
Yeah,
Uh, Alan Deck.
he is, and his childhood home is right across the street from where Pop and I go get breakfast a lot. And he was born, and he went to Noonan High School, as did his wife Denise.
Yes, he was. He was born and bred here.
Yep, a Noonan Cougar. I just dropped my grandson off at Noonan High School this morning. Yay, go Noonan! Go Noonan Cougars.
What? Yeah. But here, we think late.
Oh, it's gonna stay chilly all day then. I'm I'm ready for it. It gets people thinking about doing things in the chilly evenings,
Yes,
getting out and doing some cool stuff.
I tell you what. Hey, terrible. Here,
It's a lot closer to noon, and it's just a really quick, short trip to Turin, Georgia. And if there's any Walking Dead fans out there, this location is very closely connected to The Walking Dead. It's just a short, literally a short walk. You can walk there if you wanted from Sonoy, where they filmed a majority of The Walking Dead, I'll say. But in Turin, there is a 200-year-old settler's home. And of course, it's been added on to over the years. It's called the Page House because Dr. George Page and his wife Nancy, they inherited this house from the original settler who built it, Richard LaVille.
Right.
And we are going to open this house up. It is a wedding venue and you could have any kind of a party there. Contact the owners. It's private property on 5 acres, so it's a very secluded little area. You'll really feel like you're just in your own world there for sure. And we're doing something. I always like to do a little turn on words, Lula, legends, and lore. For instance, when I did the stroll of Sonoy, it was all S's. Well, in the Page House, we came up with kind of a funny twist. We're calling this Phantoms or Phantasm. So the goal is, are there really phantoms there lingering, or is it all in our imagination? So if you're interested in that, you could be a lover of history and join us. You could be a lover of paranormal investigation and join us. You could be a lover of The Walking Dead and join us because they filmed over 50% of episode 6 and season 11 at this house. And that episode, this is the time of year. If anybody, even if you don't watch The Walking Dead, if you watch this one episode, it's like a horror movie in an hour episode, all of its own, because they find people living behind the walls that during this apocalypse sort of turned feral. So it's known as the Feral House to Walking Dead fans. And you're going to get a chance to go in there. It's a 3-hour event, November 2nd, 6 to 9. But Ryan, it's private. This is a VIP party. There is no showing up at the door. Unlike in Lula, where you're welcome to show up at the door, and that is October 24, 25, and 26. You could just wander up to the Mercantile, be there before 7 p.m., and we'll get you on a tour. But as far as this at the Page House in Turin, we must have a reservation. One, it's a smaller location that we need to keep private. And two, she's offering snacks. So for her to get a good number on what kind of snacks she needs to provide, we have got to get reservations. So if it's something you're interested in, guys, now's the time to book your reservation. You can contact me or the Page House on Facebook, and they'll send you my way.
There you go. You know what? I know that y'all probably
Yeah, we already did. We started our first one, and that was the first Saturday of September. And then we skipped October because we're going to focus on this November, you know, event that we've got right after Halloween. But the first Saturday of every month, we are going to offer pasta at the Page House, and you can bring your group or your family or whoever. It'd be great for like a business team building event, or maybe a grade level of teachers, girls group, book clubs, birthday party. But you come into the Page House, and Miss Judy, who is the owner and caterer, she teaches you how to make homemade pasta. And it's simpler than you think. We make the pasta, and then you get a glass of wine if you're so inclined, or lemonade or water or tea, and you follow me. I tour you through the house and show you this historic house. And then at the end of the tour, we go to the dining room and we eat pasta. What's better than that? And you get, of course, access to the house. So if you're a lover of history, the house It walks around like a museum. It's an incredible helm, and if you're into that, that's great. If you are into The Walking Dead, I can literally point out all the camera angles where The Walking Dead filmed in this house.
And great. What you been with that in?
The final season 11,
11.
episode 6, season 11, and it's a pivotal episode because a beloved character named Connie, we think as viewers that she has met her demise, and here she appears again. So it's a really cool episode because we find out Connie has survived.
But
So to my YouTube guys, this is what we call a commercial break. The radio. You have to have breaks too. You got to pay for the radio with commercials, guys. That's how they do it. But that's cool. We'll be going back live with Ryan here in just a minute. So hang in there, everybody who's watching. I appreciate anybody out there watching. Give me a thumbs up, leave a message.
yeah, I'd like to get the page real bad.
Sure, sure. And we did post a little video advertising all of the events. And we tried to make it kind of a little funny thing. And um, so people can check that out. But it's fun to have 2 events, one the weekend before Halloween and one the weekend after, because Halloween's on a Thursday, which makes it, it's like both. It's a big long week of Halloween, if you ask me.
Right.
Chilly and the wind is blowing. It's starting to feel very Halloweeny out there. Purple in my hair for Halloween. That's fun. Did a thing. Just playing. Got commercials rolling. This is not dead air, guys. If you're listening on the radio, there are commercials rolling. Pay for all that stuff.
Here, let's
We are coming back on in just a minute, guys. Hang in there.
welcome to Rhino Radio Penitentiary right here on the Silver Radio Network.
Yeah, we were looking at the calendar trying to think of something to do back in September, and we had always. Okay, that's weird, Ryan. I'm all alone where I'm at, and I'm hearing something rattling. Wow. Okay. I might be stirring up ghosts right in my new office already. That could be a thing. All right. Anyway, let's hope nothing creeps down the steps right now. That's all I can say. Creepy. We looked at the calendar and we were like, okay, President Jimmy Carter turns 100 October 1st. This was back in August. We said, let's go to Plains. We'd never been there. We'd always wanted to be there. And they have a train ride you can take called the Sam Short Line. So we booked a night or two in Plains and it was amazing. And we were down there just about 10 days before he turned 100. It was awesome to be down there. And it actually produced 3 videos on our YouTube channel, Histories and Mysteries. And if you'd like to check those out, guys, we take you on the train ride, we take you in the haunted hotel, and we take you to Jimmy Carter's boyhood home. The cool part about the hotel, we didn't know anything about it. We just booked it randomly because it was really the only place to stay in Plains. And Mark and I just always like to stay in old hotels. We've stayed in plenty of them, but we didn't want to go to nearby America, so we said let's just stay right here. So the lady's checking us into our room. Each of the 7 rooms is numbered by decades: the 20s, the 40s, the 60s, the 50s, the 70s, and the 80s. So we picked the 1960s room because we were both born in 1960. Seemed right. And as we're getting in our room, outside of our door is an elevator, a hand crank, huge elevator. And the lady goes, we're like, what's that for? And she said, oh, didn't we tell you? This place, it used to be a funeral home. And this is where they took the bodies and the caskets up and down. And that was outside of our hotel room. So we spent the night in a hotel room with a elevator that took the bodies and the caskets up and down. Talk about some residual energy, huh? Are you with me, Ryan? Hello. I think we lost Ryan. Let's call him back. Don't know what happened. Are you with me? I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I'm like, are you there? Are you there? Are you there? And you weren't. So crazy. It's October. But I was telling, did it come through about the hotel? Oh, man. Okay. Yep. Something's happening. Something's going on here this morning. It is a weird Wednesday after all, isn't it? Probably. Now, Rosalind designed every room at the historic Inn and Plains. Isn't that cool? But we didn't know it used to be a funeral home. Isn't that our luck? Yeah. And guess what? That first night we were there, we were the only people in the whole hotel. I know, I know. We went live. I kind of freaked myself out a little bit. It was pretty creepy. And they left all the doors open to the different rooms. So we could have walked to any room during the night, but we got ourselves creeped out a little bit and just shut our doors and got right under the covers.
Well, that funny.
Yeah, that's happened before for sure. But what was cool was the elevator and knowing it was right out there. The whole place was really cool. We highly recommend anybody take it. If you've never been to Plains, Georgia, and you've lived in Georgia your whole life, that's a town you should go to at least once. Because they're very proud of their son, Jimmy Carter. Now, we went to his childhood home, his boyhood home. And what was cool about that is imagining this man about to turn 100 and we're visiting his childhood home. So, you think of yourself as a child and how your hometown shaped you and how your parents taught you morals, hopefully. And this is what it was all about. His dad was a hard worker. His dad was very strict, but his mother, interestingly enough, and this is the 20s and the 30s in South Georgia, and she was against segregation. She was against discrimination. She treated the African American neighbors and other farmers with a degree of respect that Jimmy Carter took in as a child. It shaped his outlook on the neighbors. So basically, he said once when they desegregated the schools, he just started going to school with friends he had known his whole life. It wasn't their fault that the schools were separated. It wasn't the children's fault. It was ridiculous adults at the time that thought that blacks and whites shouldn't go to school together. And thank goodness those days are long gone. But to think it was just in the 60s and 70s, just a half a century ago, children were forced to go to different schools. That's pretty sad to think about. Um, Very sad. But an interesting story, since we're talking to you on the radio, I wanted to share there was a cool story about they did have a radio. Now, the radio didn't plug into the wall because they had no electricity. The radio ran off of a car battery, and the car battery was just hooked up in their living room to the radio. And I know, it's cool. Jimmy Carter himself described them as watching the radio when they would listen to their favorite shows. Of course, you're thinking Little Orphan Annie, these types of shows. And
Stranger.
yeah, yeah. But he recalled, and his dad was stingy with using up the battery life. So they had a very short amount of time in the evening that they were allowed to listen to their shows, and then off went the radio. But there was a time, they lived on this farm, and they had tenant farmers who were African American all around them on the property. And one evening, Joe Louis, famous African American boxer, was fighting a German. I don't remember his name, Schleg or something. And his father, James Earl Sr., put the radio in an open window and allowed all of the farmer workers, all of the tenant farmers, to come to their property and listen to this fight on the radio. And what was cool about it was they still had to respect the white property owner because that was the times. That was how society was. It wasn't good, but that's just what it was. When Joe Louis won that fight, the tenant farmers went across the street and off of the Carter property to woo for their winner because they thought it would be disrespectful to be jubilant and joyous on their property. So, for the dad to let them listen That was a big deal because, of course, these tenant farmers, they didn't have radios. They certainly had no electricity, and they wouldn't have even had a radio. But of course, Jimmy Carter, as a child, he was cared for by the neighbor in a tenant house, which is on the property. You can walk through that old tenant house. And as a child, he would curl up in front of the wood stove on cold evenings and sleep, as we in the South call, on a pallet on the floor. And he would sleep there with his neighbors, who were, of course, African American. Now, other folks in the area who maybe were affluent whites would have thought this was shocking for him to
Right.
even be in the home. But his mother, Lillian, was very much, she was against, she just was very God fearing, and she believed that the Bible, says treat your neighbors as yourself. And she was very Christian, and it influenced Jimmy Carter's outlook. And of course, the whole town is all about Jimmy Carter, and you ride the train, and his high school is there, and you are just submerged. No politics. We didn't talk politics. There's no room for that. We just talked history, and we spoke about this. He was an incredible human. Politics aside, his presidency, his governorship aside, he was a good person. And he was raised in the South by parents who instilled morals and values. And to be at his childhood home where he, was just a kid waiting on Santa Claus to arrive, and then thinking of him just a few miles down the road in hospice care at the end of his epic life. It was neat to be there. It was really cool.
Awesome. I tell you what, quality.
Well, I tell you, the YouTube channel is Histories and Mysteries. But if you just search Sally Toole, Toole, you can find Histories and Mysteries. We've got some good playlists set up, haunted places, roadside attractions, and so forth. So go enjoy all that. You can also find me on www.georgialocationsscout.com, and that's where you'll find these special Halloween events. You can give me a call. It's got a button on the website. Push the button, it'll call, and you'll talk right to me. We do these, we don't sell tickets online because we want to personalize your experience. We want to know, hey, you got kids coming, or do you have someone who has some needs as far as using a wheelchair, whatever it is. We want to customize to make our guests have the best experience, whether it's a Walking Dead tour, a movie locations tour, or something Halloween. We want to make it the best experience we can. So reach out and contact us, guys.
Yeah. All right, guys. Ryan, get real thing. Let's come over there and bring out. Okay. Bring it.
Oh boy.
Hi.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Did you let me out on good behavior? Thanks so much, buddy.
All right, what's up?
All right. Talk soon. Thanks, bud.
All right.
Bye. All right, that was so fun, guys. We went live with Ryan on WQEE 99.1 FM. We're advertising all of our events. If you want to check those out, you can give me a call at 3. Oh, this is tricky. 863 3 8 5 2042. 386-385-2042. Give me a call today and we'll book one of the tours, either in North Georgia in Lula or south of Atlanta here in Turin, or a Walking Dead tour, whatever you'd like to do. Reach out. Thanks for coming live with me this morning. We'll see you later. Bye, everybody.